cheese?
Burger.
Burger. Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger bacon.
Where are you going with this?
Heaven.
Wait, you're just gonna stop at bacon? Cheeseburger bacon?
Cheeseburger bacon. You don't even really need
And
a bun. I mean, you could just like put it in a bowl. Cheeseburgers with bacon and I mean, what else do you need?
I mean, you could put eggs on it. You could put like
It's
any number of
true.
sauces.
You
You
could.
could put mayonnaise, mustard, ketchup, which I wouldn't recommend ketchup. Not that ketchup's terrible, but ketchup is
You
a
don't
bit
like ketchup
sweet.
on burgers?
No, I don't care for ketchup on burgers. The only thing I like ketchup on is well, I like ketchup in beef stroganoff. I like ketchup when you mix it. Basically, ketchup as an ingredient when you mix it with stuff, or maybe like a cocktail sauce,
Sure.
which is horseradish and ketchup. I like that.
Like on
But
meatloaf.
oh yeah, ketchup on meatloaf is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Heck yeah, that's the stuff right there. You can put meatloaf on your cheeseburger, bacon burger.
You could. You totally could.
Why not?
You could put pizza on it. That'd probably be
Oh
good.
yeah, you can put a whole pizza on your cheeseburger. Oh man.
Yes. What about hot dogs,
Yes,
though?
Kawhi's got it. Yes, ketchup on meatloaf with brown sugar. Yeah.
That
Hot dogs.
sounds
See,
fantastic.
hot dogs. I don't like ketchup on my hot dogs, but it's only because ketchup is too sweet. It's got too much sugar in it, like for my taste. I like it, but it's like I would rather have like a ketchup that didn't have that much sugar on it because the sweetness takes away from the other flavors of the hot dog for me or the burger. Because like the power of the sweetness of the ketchup is so strong that it's like you can't taste like on a burger, all of a sudden like the cheese tastes funny because it tastes like you're putting sugar on cheese, and that's weird. That's the way I feel about it anyways.
That's the way.
I like it.
You like it.
Or I don't like it.
Yeah. You know, hot dogs are interesting. I like chili on hot dogs, but it's got to be cheap chili. You know,
Yes.
it's the
Yes.
weirdest thing. Like if somebody's gonna make like some really really good chili, like they have these chili cook-offs in my area, and like all these people make all these big huge pots of chili, right? And so like it's just like chili fest. I would not like any of those chilies on a hot dog.
No,
it's got to be
here's
like
the thing.
It's got to be like the really really cheap chili in a can.
Think the best chili for a hot dog has a bunch of flour in it, like thickener.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Because
just so it's not soupy.
So it's not soupy, and then it's just like just lumpy. It's its own thing. I love it. Yeah, chili cheese. What do you call those chili hot dogs?
Chili cheese dogs?
Coney dogs.
Coney dogs, yes. And there are two kinds. They're like from Michigan, apparently.
Yeah, there are.
There's Detroit style and there's Flint style. And I like the Detroit style and not the Flint style. Right. Or no, I like other way around. I like the Flint style, not the Detroit style. The Detroit style are like okay, so they make this chili dog.
I can't remember now.
Well, the Detroit style chili dog is soupy. Like the chili is soupy, and they put a lot of onions on it. Right? That's Detroit style.
Oh yeah, the one with the crazy amount of onions. Yeah.
So it's disgusting. Even if you left the onions off, which like raw onions are poisonous. Like they become non-poisonous when you turn them into ring form and bread them and fry them. Like then they're not poison anymore. Or you make them bloom like at the Outback.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, blooming onions are awesome. I love blooming onions.
Yes. Oh, they're great. But like raw onions are poisonous.
I got some science to tell you about that, but yeah, go on. Go on.
So, and then Flint style are meaty, right? It's like a really, really meaty chili. And J-Ho, you're right. Like beanless chili for hot dogs. Absolutely. Like I think you can't put beans in there, right? So it's like this really thick meat chili, and then like I don't usually like mustard on too many things, but for some reason just some mustard on there is great.
Oh yeah,
so weird.
And I think chili already has like a tomato sauce, some like tomato puree in it or something. At least
Maybe.
the flavor has like a tomato-y kind of taste, maybe. Anyways, you don't need ketchup.
Yeah, you don't. You totally don't. Like
You
if
don't
you
need
could get
ketchup on a coney dog.
like seriously, like this is such a cheap and wonderful meal. Like you take a hot dog. Hot dogs are cheap anyway, right? And a
Yeah,
hot
that's
dog
true.
bun is pretty cheap. And then you take chili in a can, which is cheap, and then you take squeezed cheese. What squeezed cheese is kind of expensive. But
Squeezed
otherwise,
cheese. Is it really expensive? I haven't purchased it.
it's more expensive than it ought to be. I'll tell you that. Like for what it is, it should be a lot cheaper than it is. You probably pay for the packaging and all that stuff. And Alfonso, no, I am
Yeah.
not secretly Sonic in disguise. I just like Coney dogs, man. They're good.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with coney dog. Coney dogs are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and if you're gonna have like gourmet, like Nonsai said, if you're gonna have a gourmet chili for your hot dog, then the whole thing's gotta be gourmet.
Oh, yes.
Like like the the hot dog somehow has to be gourmet, and the bread has to be gourmet. Like you got to do everything high end, or else
What is a
there's no
gourmet
reason.
hot dog?
I do not know.
Does it turn into a bratwurst then, or like
Yeah, right.
smoked sausage? Is
I
that like
I like bratwursts.
I do too?
I like bratwurst.
But those are another thing like chili. You can make them 1,000 different
Yeah.
ways, right? There's like 1,000
Mm-hmm.
different ways to
Yeah.
make them and stuff.
I've never had a brat that's a coney
Artisanal
dog.
sausage.
Yeah, artisanal sausage. Yeah,
Yes.
there you go. That's a good one, J-Ho. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Fancy schmancy chili dogs. Anyway, here we squeeze cheeses,
Here we
meh.
are.
Alfonso, man,
You're hurting Joe's
you
soul.
break my heart, man.
That's his foundation.
I don't know. I like to keep things inexpensive if I can.
Oh.
Like hey, you can spend a lot of money on food. Hey, I just need something to put in my gut that doesn't make me feel sick afterward. So that's
I feel like I've over the course of the many years I've been alive have proven that you don't need expensive foods to make incredible flavors. You just need the right spices, and you know how
that's
to use them.
there's a lot of truth in that, and you don't want to overdo it either. You get like that's in the
No,
knowing how to use it kind of
no,
portion, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And that just comes with experimentation. You learn, like you put too much on sometime, and you're like, "Holy cow, that's not how you do it."
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn.
You
You
learn
learn
not.
your portion size. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and you need to put love
Yes,
into
but
it.
love. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right.
Love.
Mm-hmm.
Love your
Love. Yeah.
food. Mm.
Bird.
well,
R on every
well, welcome
every O.
everybody to Don't Worry Wednesday. You guys are
Mm-hmm.
awesome. You guys jumped right into this food conversation. Luckily, I ate
Mm-hmm.
beforehand, so now I'm not super hungry.
Oh
Um,
man,
but
I didn't.
you'll get there. It'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome, Alfonso, Sister Frisk, J-Ho, Kawhi, Nyansai.
Mm-hmm.
There's more. Ronia is here. I saw.
Yeah, Ronya. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Kendra, you're probably gone by now, but
Yeah.
Kendra's at choir. J-Ho, you guys are awesome. Thank you guys for joining us. This is Don't Worry Wednesday. This is a show we do that is all about you guys and your topics. This stuff that you submit to us at don'tworrywednesday.com. I think Ryan put the link in the chat earlier. Maybe
go
he'll
ahead
put
and
it
just put it back.
again.
Yeah. Boom.
That would be great. So, yes, if you have a topic you would like us to discuss, you can go to don'tworrywednesday.com. You can fill out the little form, click the submit a topic button on there, and then fill out the little form that shows up, and then we'd be happy to do your topic. We have a handful here, but I think most of them, the people want to be here for their topics, and I haven't seen any of the names in the chat so far. So yeah, so another thing you can do is you can just post it right here in the chat and we'll grab a hold of it. If you got a topic you'd like us to talk about, One way is to go to don'tworrywednesday.com. Another way is to just put it right here in the chat. You can also email us, dww@bss.studio. That's dww@bss.studio. We will get your topic that way as well. Or you can reach out to us on Discord. I am at plebnub, and Ryan is at static p with no hyphen. I think that's right? So
that's right.
yeah.
Yep.
So that's the way to get us some topics. Hey, Moonlit, how's it going, buddy? Yeah, so we are not professionals. We're not professional psychiatrists, psychologists, or anything like that. We've just kind of been through some stuff, and we've got some experience. And one of the things about it is, we're not a substitute for professional therapy. And a lot of times, if something's really complex or difficult, we're going to tell you, hey, maybe it'd be a good idea for you to talk to a therapist. That would probably be good. But we're not a substitute for that. But what we want to do is we want to love you. We want to be your friend. We want to, help in any way we can, walk alongside you through whatever journey it is that you're going through, because all these things are a journey. Life is full of peaks and valleys, and it's amazing because, one of the things about it, I remember reading a book called Peaks and Valleys, and, it was talking about life and how it does that up and down. And they're like, when you're on a peak, you can hardly remember the valley because you're on the peak and you're just like, hey, man, this is great. Everything is so awesome, right? And when you're in the valley, you can hardly remember that there's a peak because you're just like, everything is terrible. Everything sucks, It is literally true, right? But then they also talked about, sometimes we plateau and we just hang out in the plateau, and then life becomes kind of meh. And it's boring. It's not any fun anymore. So one of the things that makes life so vibrant and rich is that up and down, that roller coaster that we all live on, right? But when we're on that downward trend and going into the valley, man, that's when it's nice to have some friends around. It's nice to be able to talk about what it is you're going through. It's nice to be able to, sometimes just the act of typing it out or saying it out loud or bringing light to a situation is enough to make you feel a little bit better, and then sometimes we're just blinded by one little detail within the thing that we're dealing with, and we can't see the blessings that are all around us, or we can't see from the perspective that we need to in order to solve it. And so, like, if we can help in any way, if we can help to just shed a little light, but more than anything, just encourage you, love you, tell you, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay. Stuff's going to be fine. It really is, even I've seen people go through crazy, crazy stuff, getting arrested, man, I've been through all kinds of stuff, like divorces and people dying and, all kinds of stuff all over the place. And those moments can be so difficult. But through it all, what you discover is, things continue to move forward and it's going to be okay. No matter what might be facing you right now, it's just that you might have to make some adjustments to whatever plan you had. That's possible, but it's going to be fine. I don't know. So now that I said that, that's the advice to trump all advice, right? It's going to be fine. You're going to be good.
It's going to be fine. You're going to be all right. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
Stop worrying about it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
So
loud. Wait, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. That's Ryan's classic phrase. Like, that's how, he's told me that a bunch of times. Hey, man, don't worry about it. And I'm like, but I'm worried about it. He's like, stop it.
Stop it.
It's okay.
Then stop it. Think about it. Now don't think about it.
Yeah. Oh, boy. Queen Twinkle Toes, Sister Frisk, topic submitted.
Submitted a topic.
And you exploded?
I'm gonna... Uh-oh. Oh, I think Sister Frisk is exploding with anticipation for the topic.
Oh. Hey, I think there it is. I think I see it in there. It was submitted, but it was submitted
I'm gonna process it for you
anonymously,
real quick.
like. But then you announced
Yeah.
that it was yours.
Wait, do you want us to cover it but not tell anybody whose it is? Because we can totally do that. Just know that we might not get to it this stream because otherwise it's gonna be fresh in everybody's minds. Like, oh, it's an
Mm.
anonymous one. Oh, it's also an anonymous one. Like they'll be thinking about you. Do you want us to do it anonymously or was that an accident? Oh, okay. Because of parents. Got it. All right. Do you mind if we get to it in another stream in the future? That way, it won't be because we talked about it already.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's up to you. Oh, you don't mind. Okay. So we
You
can
don't
do
mind?
it this
Okay, cool.
stream or we can do it. Yeah.
We can do it this
You're
stream or
you're
another stream.
you're
Yeah.
giving
Okay.
us
Cool.
you're giving us choice. I don't do all
Mm-hmm.
that great with choice sometimes. Sometimes I need one choice because making decisions is hard.
That's true. That's true.
uh, add more cheese.
That's fair. That's fair.
Hey, hey, cool. Alfonso says, speaking of peaks and valleys, I used to think that valley was an inverse mountain. Yeah, it's kind of true, like it's weird though, because like a lot of our bodily reactions when we're feeling certain emotions is the same, whether it's in the positive or the negative. We just kind of, we have it attached to a situation that's either positive or negative. But the feeling of fear, the bodily feeling of fear is the same as excitement.
That's right. Well, that's what they say. It
Mm-hmm.
seems like it's right to me because I mean, when you get on a roller coaster, it's pretty awesome.
I don't know. It's
But it's
exciting.
also
I am not
it's
fearful on a
exciting,
roller
but also like
coaster.
feels the same thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's weird because like because of the situation in our mind, we attach either a positive or a negative, um, definition to that feeling, and so we think it feels different, but it's actually the same bodily reaction. It's kind of funny. We humans, we do some interesting things. But yes, adrenaline is great. I'm not quite an adrenaline junkie, but I do enjoy a good adrenaline rush every once in a while.
Mm.
Kind of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know. Me too. Although I don't think I've had one in ages, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true. Sometimes video games can give me an adrenaline rush.
They
Not the
can.
same, but to some degree, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I tell you,
Yeah, they certainly can.
I
Especially crazy ones. Yeah.
was playing. My son got an Oculus. He saved his money and he bought himself an Oculus, and so now he has Gorilla Tag. And he's like, "Here, Dad, check it out." And so I put the VR headset on and everything, and I'm playing Gorilla Tag. And man, I honestly got kind of motion sick. Like the whole thing just made me. I'm like flying through the air and doing all this crazy stuff and swinging, and I'm just like, "Holy cow, man!"
Yeah. Sounds
Like, and I
sounds
was just
awesome.
standing there in my room, like,
Yeah. All you were doing is just sitting there in
yep.
your room. That's great. Well, yeah, I've never done any of those. Well, have I? I feel like I might have done some VR stuff before, but yeah, I'm not really too into it. I don't know. I just prefer my my computer, I guess, for
Mm,
whatever reason.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't
But I
know. It's
remember,
definitely an experience.
man, when that stuff first started coming out, it was all the rage.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, he's got a whole bunch of buddies that all play Gorilla Tag together. It's fun to listen to
Uh,
them all.
that's fun.
Yeah.
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 They
Well,
have a
it's
good
nice
time.
when, yeah, I mean, anything with a bunch of friends is great. It's a great
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yep. Yep. J-Ho, is anyone else going to watch the FNAF movie when it comes out? I'm sure I will get to. I'm not generally a big fan of horror movies, but my oldest son certainly is. And I'm sure he's going to be like, Dad, we got to go watch it. And I'll be like, okay, brace myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all right. Yeah, well,
This, well, you can be both stoic. I just attempt to be so stoic that even during an adrenaline rush, um, I'm just like, yeah, I'm riding this. This is great.
mm-hmm. You just like raise your
Nah.
eyebrow a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
right.
your
One of my a single hair of my
that's
eyebrow
that's
moves
that's how
about.
you know Ryan's excited. Like that one hair gets out of place, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It moves about a centimeter up. Whoa, he's freaking out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Actually, you mentioned Stoic. That reminds me, I ought to get back
Mm-hmm.
into some of the Stoic philosophers. They're really good. If you've ever read any of the
Mm-hmm.
Stoics, man, they are so good. They really have a good angle on their philosophy. I've found. So, is it like Marcus Aurelius was one that I really enjoyed.
Oh yeah, Marcus
Seneca was
Aurelius. Yeah.
one, but yeah, there were a handful of Stoics that just they really have a good way of looking at the world. So you just it's kind of like, hey, it kind of fits well with Don't Worry Wednesday because they're kind of like, you know what, don't worry about it.
Yeah, generally speaking, yeah.
It's like it's not
I
a big
think
deal.
stoicism works really well for a phlegmatic.
Mm,
It's like if you're phlegmatic and someone gives you stoicism like philosophy, you're just like, yeah, that sounds perfect for me. Like
mm,
that's where I want to be all the time, you
mm-hmm.
know? But I don't
Yep.
know. I think stoicism, just like anything, it's not perfect, right?
Right.
It doesn't cover all the bases, but I think that it's like something that we all should spend some time to appreciate and absorb,
Mm-hmm.
to at least be able to operate in the world when times are a bit insane, especially
Mm,
because being able to tread that water, of like just it's like waves are crashing into you, but if you're stoic, you're fine.
mm-hmm.
So like having that ability is a great talent,
Mm,
and it can really help you when you're struggling or when everything goes wrong,
mm-hmm.
rather. Mhm.
Yep. That is a really good way to live, I have found.
Yeah.
And it's probably good, a person who is more of an upbeat personality type might find
Mhm.
stoicism to be a little bit boring, but it would help a lot like if they have like anxiety and all kinds of
Oh,
stuff
yeah,
that
for
kind of
sure.
comes with that personality type that kind of you know
Mhm. Mhm.
to
Yeah.
just be able
Yeah,
to just kind of
absolutely.
center yourself and just be
Mhm.
like, okay, hey, it's gonna be all right. No worries. No big deal. Here we are. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, upbeat stoic
So
is
what do you say
Chad.
we,
Is a Chad.
upbeat stoic as a Chad? Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I was like, "Who's Chad?" I was like, "Oh, Chad."
No, I think an upbeat I think a upbeat stoic person is a surfer dude. That's how I think about
Yeah,
it.
that sounds about right. But yeah, I think you're right. We
Hey,
should get to a
tune the voice,
topic.
bruh. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, you guys have hung out with us for 30 minutes and we haven't gone to a topic yet already. Like,
Wow.
wow, it's
And you guys listen
amazing.
to us talk about hot dogs and all sorts of different stuff. So thank
Hot
you
dogs,
for your
meatloaf, hot
patience.
dogs, and meatloaf.
Mm-hmm. That's, that's right. That about sums it up.
Yes. So, all right. So, let's see. So, what do you think? What do you think we ought to do here, Ryan?
Well,
Should we do this brand new
have we
topic that
really
just
not?
came in from Anonymous? We have two anonymous ones that
have,
came in.
yeah, we actually have. more than one anonymous here, and I was thinking we also have these really old ones from July 5th. Are we? They say they want to be present, but we haven't seen them
Mm-hmm.
in forever.
I don't know. That's a good question. You want to just do them and get them off the list? I mean, because
Um,
even if they're not here,
did we do this top one?
healing from a
Healing from a
sudden
sudden
breakup.
breakup?
I don't know. Maybe.
No, I don't think we did. I think we just covered the same similar topic before. Like, I think it was oh yeah. It wasn't Jess. Instead it was Sparrow. We
Oh yeah,
covered
that's
that
right.
kind of topic from Sparrow. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe we could maybe just shelf that one if they ever come back.
Okay.
Um yeah. I don't know, man. I'll leave it up to you. We can do whatever one you want.
Well, you're gonna leave
I
it
don't
up
even
to
have to do
me.
those. Yep, you're the host. You're supposed to be picking.
You're right.
Kinda.
You're right. I
I know
know.
supposed to be is
But I
maybe
don't
not the
feel
right
I'm not in a decision-making mood today.
meat dogs and hot loaf. Yes, please, J-Ho. I prefer me some meat dogs and hot loaf.
Mmm. Sounds good. Roll a die. I don't have one.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can flip a
Wow.
coin,
Okay.
but that only gives me two
But that
options.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Flip a coin on 7 options.
All right. I'll tell you what, we're going to start with this one that came in just recently. It's titled Transgender Navigation. This is from Anonymous. And yeah, you know who you are. So, yeah, so we'll start with that one. That'll be good. And let me get it up on the screen here. And then I can read it aloud. And you guys can read along. So here it is. All right, so this is from Anonymous, and this is called Transgender Navigation. And it reads as follows. I have transgender friends, and I'm a demi-girl myself. I occasionally try to bring up that trans people shouldn't be met with hate or concern to my parents, but I'm not sure they agree. My dad especially thinks they are dangerous and gross, and I don't know how to respond to it. Any advice? From Anonymous. So, Anonymous, thank you very much for the topic, and I'm sorry that I mean this can be a really tough situation, as you
Mhm.
like, especially, I don't know, sometimes people who have traditional values, they look at something like, they'll look at the whole LGBTQ movement, or they'll look at trans people in general. Maybe they just won't understand, and so they automatically label it as bad, and then that brings with it some kind of emotional charge to it sometimes, and it generally comes from a lack of understanding. So I will tell you this: even if your dad isn't quite understanding, try to be a little bit patient and just understand that he's working through, the issue. It's kind of a newer thing, and it's one of those topics. It's kind of like a hot button topic for people right now, right? And
Mhm.
it can
Mhm.
bring a lot of emotional charge. I mean, I can tell you that in my opinion, somebody who's transgender, like, I love you. You are a person to me.
Mhm.
Biological sex, however you identify, whatever's going on, however, whatever's going on, you're a human being, and you have every bit of dignity that I do. You have
Mhm.
every bit of dignity that any other person does, right? It's so interesting because, like there's all I I'm waiting for the day that I'm going to totally get canceled by all of you guys right now, okay? I'm just going to preface this right now. I'm going to get canceled everybody's going to leave the stream. We're going to get demonetized, but we were never monetized in the first place. So
YouTube will try to demonetize us and be like, "You're not monetized." Oh, okay, well.
Oh, meow.
We'll never get monetized then.
Right, exactly. Meow, welcome. And today is actually International Pronouns Day. This topic is kind of on theme with it. Hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know that today was that day either. So, hey, thank you. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. But okay, I'm going to get myself canceled. You ready? Because I see all these things, we have LGBTQ month, we have, women's appreciation, we have, Black History Month. There's all kinds of stuff and all these celebrations, and it happens in the Fortnite shop too, like where you see like all these things come available in the Fortnite shop that are related to one of these things. And so like, exactly. Right. And so like, I see this and I'm like, you know what? When are we going to have like straight white male month? I mean,
yeah, I'm not against it, but I'm not for it either.
No, me neither. Right. I was like, it's not necessary.
Actually, I am somewhat against it, not because of the reasons of like feeling guilty that I'm white, but just because like that's so unnecessary.
I know, right? But it's weird because it's almost like, if you kind of feel awkward. Like every once in a while, I feel kind of awkward. Like I don't belong anywhere because I'm a straight white male and there's all these different communities of like, LGBTQ, trans, different ethnic groups, all this kind of stuff. And it's just like, sometimes I'm kind of nervous, like it's weird. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Fair enough.
However we are, however we're built, however we feel like we identify, we're still human. And to be trans, in my opinion, seems like it would be really, really hard. Just inside. Because biologically, I'm male. And if I felt like I should be female, that's an internal battle that I don't understand, and it seems like it would be really difficult because like I'm fighting against my own body, right? At that point. And so to me, that struggle is real, and we don't need to add to that struggle by, degrading someone or being mean or like being obnoxious or whatever, or being hateful, all this kind of stuff, being judgmental. Like seriously, I don't understand how another person thinks, because I don't know what's going on in their head. The best thing I can do is try to have compassion and try to understand and ask questions. And so that's generally what I try to do. I'll look at someone who's transitioning and I'll be like, I'll look at them and I'll be like, okay, clearly they're transitioning from male to female or from female to male or whatever, right? And like this extra bit of compassion comes into my heart because I can imagine, I'm just like, man, that must be such a struggle. First of all, internally a struggle, and then in society when you have all these really loudmouth, angry, like bigot type people, shouting and stuff like that. It seems ridiculous to me. And so I think we need to put a big like love blanket around the world and say, hey, we're all human. We should love each other. We should we should seek to understand each other. And all this judgmental, nonsense needs to go out the window because, man, you don't know. So anyway, sorry. I noticed some of you are still here, so I guess I didn't get totally canceled.
Just two people.
Just two people.
No,
actually, I think we have more people. I look over at the viewers. I think we have more people now.
So
than
now
we
it's
did
more that you've said that. Yeah. Fair enough. When it's controversial, when things get controversial, people are gonna join you.
Yes, I guess you're totally right. But yeah. Okay, so how do you respond to your dad who doesn't understand trans and maybe is being judgmental? That is a really,
Hmm.
really good question. And I know one of the best people to talk about this is Ryan because he has such a heart for others. And whether, like, somebody could be like the loudest, biggest bigot in the world, and Ryan would go and talk to them and try and understand them as well, and his presence just has a
Mm.
way of calming situations down and getting to reality and helping everybody to feel loved. And so I'm really excited to hear what Ryan has to say. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Yeah,
So,
well,
Ryan,
thanks for saying such a nice thing. I appreciate that, Joe.
well, it's
And
true.
I suppose
I
that's
speak the
what
truth. I
I
speak
try
the
to do.
truth in anger.
Oh no. Don't be angry about it. I'm just trying to be a good person here.
Ryan's all good, and I wish
Um,
I was good too, and I'm mad
all
about
right,
it.
dude. You're better than I am. You shut your mouth. Um,
Whatever.
um, so anyways, you know, here's some instead of I mean Joe did such a good job of talking about the transgender issue. And I mean I obviously and absolutely agree that it sort of doesn't matter, only in the sense that we should love beyond beyond whatever someone might identify as. So they're human first, right? And beyond that, it's just like, okay, so what's the holdup? I get that there are people, for example, like terrorists, you know, and and we've seen that in recent times, right? We've seen terrorism being done in Israel, and all of that, the Pakistani and Israel situation going on. Obviously, we've had terrorist attacks in America at one point in our recent history, and so on and so forth. And there are certain things where people are so messed up that well, to say that they're so messed up is not fair. It's more so their thinking is so different from ours that it's hard to even understand them to begin with. You know, you think about like why would you ever do something like terrorism? Well, it's like you might come to your conclusions, but in the end, they're not the same conclusions the other person would have come to because their mind is working so much differently to have committed even such an atrocity in the first place, to kill, like literally to go to a place and just kill people. I saw a video in of allegedly a Pakistani person walking through a uh, event. It was a music event of some sort, and they were just shooting bullets into occupied what do you call those outhouses, people sitting down in the toilet eating or sitting down in the toilet pooping or
Eating.
peeing or
It's
whatever,
like
right?
eating sitting down in the
Eating.
toilet.
Sometimes people eat in those. That'd be a
It's,
horrible place to eat. That's so smelly.
you know,
That would be awful. Anyways,
input, output
yeah,
all at the same time,
outhouses.
right? Like that's.
Yeah, in and out, in and out. Okay, anyways, that's so gross. Anyways, um yeah, they were just walking and just like literally just they did not care who they killed. They were just killing anybody that happened to be in them because the doors were closed. There was their understanding of humanity, their recognition that there are people and that the people are valuable was just completely off. They had no care about who was in those rest areas, right? They just shot people, right? And so that's horrible, right? And so my point of bringing that up, as horrible as that is, when people get emotionally charged over a topic without fully recognizing the humans underneath, or the humans the humanness behind those ideas or those thoughts or those other opinions or the other race or the other gender or the other whatever it is, when people forget that, they make the wrong choices. generally speaking. Um, and so even though we might not understand them, because it's like, why would you do that? They are where they are, just like you are where you are, and they don't understand you. So the important thing to do when you encounter uh, an aggressive, how do I say this? When you encounter someone who is aggressively of the other opinion, the best thing you can do to help them is to come to them with kindness and ask them. I mean, and Joe kind of alluded to this, ask them why they believe what they believe,
Hmm.
and talk to them and sit there and don't argue with them. Don't ask them why they believe what they believe so that you can shut them down or prove them wrong. Your first step is to ask them why they believe what they believe so that they can get it out there and you can understand them. Because if you don't understand them, you're not going to make a difference. Just like they don't understand you and they're not going to make a difference. At least not a positive one. It only make negative differences, right? Someone who someone who doesn't understand the other side generally only makes things worse because they're trying to approach a problem and solve it by being aggressive and angry and mean and unkind and unfair and so on, which doesn't help, right? So when you are trying to speak to your dad or your mom or whoever, you said, my dad especially thinks they are dangerous and gross and I don't know how to respond to it, right? I think the thing that you respond to with that is to openly discuss it and to understand where they come from so that you yourself can understand them and make a difference.
Hmm.
You changing someone's opinion is not a matter of them understanding the right way from your side.
Mm-hmm.
You changing someone's opinion is a matter of you entering into their life where they're at, right? And I think a lot of times we get that wrong. It's like we see someone out in the world and they're thinking about something incorrectly and they're really emotional and intense and aggressive about it. And so we think, okay, what we need to do is get them thinking right. So we need to show
Mm-hmm.
them what the truth is. And so you reveal the truth and they explode on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you showing them is not the same as you entering into their sphere and helping them move forward, right? I'd say the best case scenario for your dad or your parents who or whatever is to recognize the humanity that underlies the whole issue. And of course, the issue with that is in that statement is someone from the other side would say that from the other side of your perspective um, might say that well, if we're talking about humans, then we need to do the right thing and we need to help these people and we need to get them thinking right so that they're feeling good instead of feeling however they feel and struggling with this. And that's a fair response because they're talking about the humanity, but it isn't necessarily correct in that if someone's struggling with something, you don't solve it usually by, how do I say this? You don't solve an issue usually by just a, by getting rid of it in a way that like um, dismisses it.
Mm.
Sometimes that solves an issue. But dismissing an issue or dismissing a cultural movement or whatever it might be, it doesn't usually solve anything, um, because it still is in the hearts and minds of the people, and dismissing it is not really an action you can do. You can only pretend to dismiss it. Um, so, to the solution of well, we need to just move on. We need to have these people appreciate who they are, who they really are, etc. um, that's that's great and all because it comes from a perspective of recognizing that they're human and we want to help them, but it doesn't recognize them where they need to be helped. Because again, there's a lack of understanding and compassion,
Mm-hmm.
especially if your actions um, are responding that someone is gross, for example,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're coming from a perspective of like, oh, that's gross, don't do it, don't be that, then your advice is unfortunately not going to help people get better, whether it means accepting who they are on one side or the other, whether it comes to mean no longer needing that acceptance in the first place, etc. And of course, in the transgender world, it's not just a matter of an inside experience of like, oh, it's really difficult because your biology, your physical presence is different than your internal understanding of yourself and that conflict, but it's also the conflict of social, of how other people see you immediately, right? So other people see you, they see you as X, Y, or Z, and you don't experience yourself that way on the inside. And so you constantly have this battle of feeling like you need to correct everybody, or you need to um, you you ought to be treated as Z and not Y, right? Or X and not Y. That would be chromosomal. That works better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's very difficult to deal with because you're not just dealing with an internal battle, you're also dealing with a constant external battle, which becomes internal as well. So, um, anyways, my point about that is this: to to move forward in the whole thing, to move forward in getting the world to be more accepting and more loving, and I guess besides that, to move forward in getting humanity the best that humanity can have, right? I think because that's the ultimate goal here, right? On either side, each side, however emotionally charged they might be, and however just
Bigoted.
whatever, how much of a bigot they can be,
Mm-hmm.
both sides have some desire, hopefully, um, that we are bettering humanity, that we are moving humanity forward, right? And the issue stems from not understanding each other, not necessarily knowing the way, but thinking we do,
Mm-hmm.
and not having compassion to move forward. And so when you're addressing someone who is on the other side of this experience, whether they believe that the whole transgender movement is a bad thing, or they believe the whole transgender movement is a good thing, etc., whether they're on this side or that, to come to the common ground that you desire the best for the human race, right? Or at least the best for the people around you, is a great starting point to allow the conversation to move forward. Because in most things, I mean, and especially this movement in particular, things that are intensely different and then handled with intense emotion are not handled well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are not handled well. And so it takes calming people and getting on the same page, the same like foundation. And so my whole point, again, saying all that is if you're talking to your dad or your parent, whatever it is, your mom or your dad or anybody who's on the other side of that fence of you, the main thing you need to do is find the common ground. So when you enter into a dialogue there, ask them questions and ask them with kind and sincere recognition of their intelligence, right? Don't dismiss their intelligence. Affirm them. Affirm them for their intelligence. What I mean is, affirm them means to like to uh, edify and to like what's the word? Compliment them. There we go. Compliment them on their intelligence and give them that. Recognize like this is a human being who has this point of view. It's different than my point of view. But part of the reason it's different is because I grew up in my era, they grew up in theirs.
Mm.
I grew up in one culture, they grew up in another.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't say that mine's better
Right.
because I don't know the whole truth of everything. I can only say that we are where we are now. And so what do we do moving forward? And that's important. And so the first thing I need to do is understand where they're at. And so you talk to them. You believe that they're an intelligent person and you trust in that, right? And you listen to them. And so you say like, "Hey, what's your opinion on this?" And then they'll say, and you say, "Okay, can you explain what you mean by this? Can you tell me more about how you came to that conclusion so I can understand?" And it's not don't I'm gonna give you a bit of advice. It sounds sketchy, but just hear me out. Pretend you are not on the side you're on
Mm.
so that you can address them in a fashion that upholds their comfort level. If you come at them in a position of, okay, I'm on the other side of you, and so you're going to have to argue your way out and try to prove to me that I'm wrong, right? It gives a whole different communication, whole different, like everything's going to be different about that communication than if you go, hey, like I'm on your side and I just want to know, like, how do you address these things? What are your thoughts about these things, right? And then they'll feel free to speak and not feel under pressure, right? They'll feel free to be able to put their point of view in a way that's more thought out and better and more what's the word? Um Intimate.
Mm.
They'll be more readily intimate with you, which is what you need in order to find that common ground, in order to find yourself on the same page, on the same desire to move things forward for everybody, right? And so um you have to and I don't mean you got to pretend you're on their side and damage your own internal views that way. Um and and so on and so forth. But what I do mean is when you approach them, don't do it from an argumentative sort of way.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Don't you don't have to reveal whose side you are on because the important thing is to just get them to talk about it. Once the talking is done and you've kind of fleshed out the understandings that you can get and you've posed certain questions that are in opposition but not in a way that is attacking. So an example of that is like if they say something and you don't drive with it like they say something and it's clearly just hateful, right? You don't have to be argumentative to question it. You can say like instead of well I don't know. You can ask them in such a way it's like, "Hey, so you said this." And I think that a lot of people would find you very rude for saying that. Um, so how would you justify that? What is your what is how would you say that to somebody who, you know, they're a real human being and they're just where they're at, you know? You can talk to them like that. You can talk to them about um how what they say might be uncompassionate, but you can phrase it in a way that you're not just calling them uncompassionate, right? So instead of saying like, "Hey, you're being really rude to these people." That's an attack, right? Instead, say that phrase. I think some people would probably take that as really rude.
Mm.
Not that you're trying to be rude, but Some people would take it that way. How would you, um, what would be a better way to come at them? Because obviously you can't make a difference in their life if you're rude, right? People don't respond well to that. So is there a better way that we should be communicating with these people? Is there a better way to address this problem? And then you know what happens? Because you put that idea out there, they're going to come up with an idea of how to approach people better and how to speak about people in kinder ways. And they're going to come up with it in themselves. And that's going to make them think it's a good idea. Right? So that's kind of how you have to move things forward in these cases. If you're dealing with someone who thinks like, who openly says like, oh, that person's gross, you bring them to recognize the error of not necessarily the error of their ways, but yeah, I suppose the error of the way that they're moving through, the way that they're thinking is wrong, but you introduce them to that concept that the way that they're thinking is wrong, not by telling them it's wrong, but by coming up with a solution for a problem. Because when they come up with a solution in their own head, they are attached to it and they think it's the right way. They think it's a better way, right? And so I would suggest what you need to do is next time your parent says something that you find unfair, unfleshed out, uncompassionate, unkind, whatever it is, not respecting the humanity that the person has and holds. Next time you experience that from anybody, I suppose, whether you be your parents or anybody, the best thing you can do is ask them about what they just said, but ask them about it in a way that helps them to solve what they just said, the errors of it, right? Not to point it out and say, what you just said is wrong, because a lot of times you don't have a relationship with the person that allows you to tell them that they're wrong. Most people don't have relationships with other people that allow them to tell them that they're wrong, right? Joe and I might be able to have a conversation where it's like, I think you're thinking wrong about that. Let's, or me and my brother might be able to. But
Me
I
and
recognize
your
that
brother have those conversations.
yeah, you and Kyle have those conversations.
And we both
And your
we
friendship
both
remains.
we both talk about how each other's wrong, but that's okay. You can be wrong.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Right, absolutely. But most people can't handle that,
Right.
especially if you're not on that level of friendship with them. And in general, you aren't in that level of friendship with your parents. Now, I could, in my position with the way that I am with my mom, I would probably be able to say like, I think you're thinking about that in the wrong way. She would take that seriously. And she could say the same thing to me because there's this great amount of respect built there. And we've done that. We've had that encounter. But I can't do that with most people in my life. You know, with
It's
the
true.
majority of people, and especially like, if I was to say, I think you're thinking about that wrong to one of my parents when I was much younger, there would have been a completely different response. They would have felt like I was disrespecting them, right? Instead of looking out for them, right? But the only reason there is that level of respect between me and my parents, or my mom, for example, is because it's been established that I'm not disrespecting them, I'm looking out for them. It's been established because of our conversations. And so you need to get to that point with someone before you can really point out they're wrong just blatantly.
Right. And even
Right.
then, you got to do that carefully.
And even then, yeah, you have to do it with carefulness. You have to tread carefully. Yeah, for sure. And so my point is, instead of pointing out someone's wrong, point out that there's a possibility that others would perceive them as wrong. Because then it's not you attacking them and them defending themselves. They're defending themselves against a third party, which doesn't put you and them in. It doesn't put you and them um, at war with each other, where there's a sense of, oh, do they not respect me, right? Do they not respect my intelligence? I came to this conclusion with great thought. No, you make a third party the enemy. You say, okay, you're like, okay, so now imagine there's this person, maybe they're your friend, and it's, they say this. How would you respond to that? Like, because they're your friend. Are you gonna, like, blah blah blah? So you allow them to see their fault, but not from you, but from a possible third party. And they're going to come up with a solution, right? Now, here's the thing. Some people are not good at this, and you have to give them many tries, because some people feel attached to their ways, and anything they say, if they say something, they're not going to say something next that says, maybe I was wrong about that. Let me rethink about that. Most people can't do that. So you have to give them time. And unfortunately, something that happens is people build up an argument that's based on a bad point, and it's really hard for them to move on. And then their whole everything is just crummy. Like, I don't know how to. If you've seen it, you've seen it. But so what you do to dismantle that is, one step at a time. You play their side. Sometimes you got to give them the answer, right? But the point of everything I'm saying is, act as though you are on their side. Because in reality, you are. Because you're on the side of trying to help them. And that's on their side. Even if their opinion doesn't necessarily respect humanity. And you need to fix that for them. You need to help them move forward in that. So sometimes it requires you to break down your own arguments, or to give examples of you changing, so that it allows them room to feel like they can change too. Right? That seems to happen in a lot of cases for me, and conversations that I find are very difficult. If I can show that I'm willing to change, if I'm willing to be like, I was thinking about that wrong before, and I just said it like 4 seconds ago, but you know what? I think it'd be better to do it this way. If I say that out loud to them, they're more likely to respond and start thinking that same way, where they're able to take things back and not feel like they've lost respect. It opens up the gate for them to dismantle themselves, right? And the point isn't necessarily to get them onto the other side of the battlefield. The point is to get them on the side of wanting the best for humanity, and moving from that point forward, rather than from whatever point they're moving forward from right now, right? Because to respect humanity is the most important part, the most important point to be made here. To have love of our human fellow people, to have compassion for them, and to understand we don't know everything. All those points are really important, and they're more important than whether being trans is right or wrong. They are more important than whether being trans is right or wrong, or delusional or whatever, right? It's more important than that, because if we as a society can get to the common ground of recognizing, like, we need to love each other first and move forward from that point, we can move forward together. But so long as the foundational point is transgenderism right or wrong, and that's the foundational point, you can never be together. And so therefore you can never move to the next step where we're actually making progress on this. Right? And so we need to do our best when we're talking to people, no matter which side of the fence we're on. We need to spend time finding that love and making that the foundation, so that we can respect each other enough to have the conversations we need to have. Because until we cannot have those conversations right now. If you try to have that conversation with someone who's on the other side of the fence right now, either way, you just it's just a battle. It's attack. It's like you're attacking each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're not allowed to talk about it. That's how we're afraid to talk about this subject because it's a battlefield,
Mm.
and battlefields are where people get hurt,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, in order to solve this issue, we need to respect each other's ideas enough to recognize this person in their heart, they care about people. But I need to make that part the point where we start from, not somewhere way off here where we start from in the middle of the battle. We need to kind of go back to our roots of, hey, we love people. That's the foundation. And so, I don't know. That's my point of view. If you want to talk to your parents or anybody about this subject and you want to move forward, you need to have the common ground that you respect each other
Mm-hmm.
and that you both want what's best for humanity, both want what's best for the people in your lives, the people that are your friends, the people that you don't know very well, but you still care that they're suffering or that they're full of joy or whatever it is, right? We need to have that compassion and care. And you cannot get there if the other person thinks you're on the other side of the battlefield.
Mm.
Here's the thing. You're not on the other side of the battlefield. The battlefield's a lie. The battlefield is what's been made up for us and we're living in it.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, we're all here together. And this little point of contention between how people think of themselves versus how they physically are, this whole transgender thing, or even just the LGBTQ thing, which sex you're attracted to, it shouldn't even matter. What I mean is, like, grand scheme, like, here's a human person, like, huge amount of, like, if you were to put that amount of data on a computer, all the computers in the world couldn't handle it. Like, we do not have enough memory.
Mm-hmm.
One human being, right? And then the transgender issue, it's like this tiny, like an atom in comparison to everything that you are.
Mm-hmm.
And yet we're making that the center point of our cultural contention,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so long as we allow the culture to tell us we're at war, we will just continue to have division where we cannot make any steps forward, where we will be just will be divided among each other and hate each other,
Mm-hmm.
right? And here's the thing. There's a lot of problems with that. And one of them, I mean, one of the biggest, how do I say this? Um, I think in this world, the biggest problem is that division
Mm-hmm.
beyond every problem in the world. But it's not the source of division that's the problem. The source of the division is minute. It's pointless. Who who cares? It's just like, okay, you're attracted to this kind of person. Why should that matter to me?
Mm-hmm.
That's your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's like this amount of detail in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it that big of a deal? Why is it such a big deal that it's like there's a cultural war over it? It's because it's not a big deal. When you try to solve something that can't be solved because it's not an issue in the first place, you create a lot of stress for everybody, especially yourself. And there's no point in it. And so my point is, in all of this, again, is just to come back to no matter which side of the fence you are in all of this, if you want to talk to somebody, get down to the roots and recognize The issue is not the issue.
Mm.
The enemy is the enemy. Is a line that I've heard. The
Mm.
enemy is the enemy. And in a Christian world, the enemy is Satan, not the people,
Mm-hmm.
right? The enemy is division. Satan is he who divides, or he who accuses, right? He is the sole point of division for humanity. He's the one that causes us to be unable to move forward because we hate each other,
Mm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that hate is the devil. So
Right.
the enemy is the enemy. It's not, the enemy is not transgenderism. The enemy is not those who are on the other side of it.
Mm-hmm.
The enemy isn't the bigots. The enemy isn't any of those things. The enemy is the fact that we're not united.
Right.
The enemy is the fact that we don't have love, right? We have hate in our hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way to solve this is to act out in love towards those people who are hateful, so that eventually they will love you in return. And then the issue will no longer be an issue to them
Mm-hmm.
because they will love you beyond whatever. Like, they don't like transgenders, but you happen to be one. They won't care anymore because they love you. It won't be an issue. It won't get in the way of them loving you. They might not necessarily agree with it. They might never come to a point where they're like, yeah, it's a good thing. But they will no longer allow it to cause them to say things like those people are gross.
Right.
Because that's unloving, right? That is a unloving remark, right? And so we need to do our best to love our enemies. I know it's silly because it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, this is what Jesus said. But you're not going to make any progress otherwise, because your enemies are only your enemies because there's hate.
Mm.
There's hate of something, but that thing that they hate should not be a big deal. It should not be such a big deal that it trumps over love,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we need to remind people that, hey, yeah, we know that hatred is a really intense emotion, and it can cause you to say really terrible things or feel really terrible things, but it's not helpful. And if you want to help people, if you actually want to help people, like, I know that the whole point of you talking about this, like, the whole point of you saying mean things about other people because they're transgender, or they're thinking weird, or they're thinking wrong, right? The whole point of that is because you think it's bad for them and bad for other people. It's like, okay, great. That's a good starting point. Well, then, if you love them, act like you love them. Speak like you love them. You don't call your loved ones gross, right?
Right.
You aren't disgusted. You're like, you can be like, you disgust me. Yeah, sure. No, their sin disgusts you or something like that. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't treat them like they are filth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's important to get to that point with other people. And if you can get to that point, if you can get them to recognize that, then everything moving forward is going to go with a great much more deal of respect, care, love, compassion, and progress will be made. Progress will be made
Mm-hmm.
because then we're actually acting like we care about how people turn out in this world, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I know I talked about that and I ranted about it for a really long time. And I apologize for taking so long to say it. But yeah, that's what I got. Go on, Joe. It's your turn. Sorry about that.
It's my turn. You're fine. I love what
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about. The enemy is hate. It really is. And like it's interesting because um I there's something even more insidious in my mind. I mean, there's this hate and it's put out in front of us by different media outlets and all this kind of stuff. But
Oh,
honestly,
sure.
there are people that are in power that like being in power, and they keep their power by keeping us fighting with each other.
I mean, the common line is divide and conquer. So you
Exactly,
divide the
right?
people beneath you,
Well,
and so
that's
that
and
they're easy to control.
exactly, and Satan does that. People do that, like it, and it's
Yep.
amazing to me because we're all pitted against each other: the blacks versus the whites versus the Mexicans versus the Italians versus the, whoever's versus the LGBTQ versus the heteros versus the trans versus who, and we're all fighting with each other. And like,
Mhm.
and people are so prone to jump on that and just be like, oh, they get all riled up. And because anger is a
Mhm.
powerful emotion, but it gets directed at the wrong thing. I think Ryan said that so well that we get mad at the other side, but what we should be mad at is the hatred.
Right.
It's hugely important. And I love what you guys were talking about in the chat. It's great. I'm going to ask you guys a
Yeah, you
question
guys
in
have
the
a lot of really
chat.
good stuff in the chat.
When you think of LGBTQ, what do you think the Catholic opinion is? Ryan and I are both Catholic. What do you think the overarching Catholic opinion on LGBTQ is? And chat if you want to
Yeah,
say,
feel free to answer.
feel free to answer, please. This is a direct
You're
question
not gonna
to
offend
you
us, by
guys.
the way, no matter what you say. We
No. What is it? How am I supposed to know I'm Jewish?
fair.
Interesting.
Well, Fricks, fair.
It
Good
really
answer.
depends on the person. I see a lot of, interestingly enough, I see a lot of people that, and maybe I see that, okay, you have no idea, you don't know enough.
Depends on the person.
You guys are open-minded. This is great. Like, okay. Wow. Cool. Here's the thing. I see it purported in media and from different communities that most of the time what you hear from Catholics is that these people are wrong, they're sinners, they're blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. Like, and I meet a lot of Catholics who are like that. Man, there's a parish that the church that's closest to me, I will not go to because the priest is like super political in all of his homilies, right?
And he doesn't need to be.
He shouldn't be. It's
Shouldn't
wrong.
be.
It's wrong of him. I should report him to the bishop, but I feel like the bishop,
Yeah, it is.
Like
The point of mass is to celebrate God, not to like be politically charged and like yeah, and give
exactly.
it like it's not your podium to speak on.
Yes, absolutely, Sister Frisk. Yep. The Pope was pretty open-minded, and he's absolutely right. Because here's the thing: when Ryan was talking, I went and got my copy of the Catechism of the Catholic Church, because like we're talking about trans, and this lumps in with LGBTQ, it lumps in with hatred, it lumps in with all this stuff, right? And we have, a huge community of Catholic people who are anti all of this stuff and very vocal and very loud and very, and it makes me really upset. And I'm like, y'all need to read your own document.
Thanks, straight.
Because, okay, and I just read this today. It was in my reading for today. This is from paragraph, oops, wrong page. From paragraph 2358 of the Catechism.
Wow. Dang.
Paragraph 2358 of the Catechism, and I'm not going to read all of it, but it says in here, the number of men and women who have deep-seated homosexual tendencies is not negligible. This inclination constitutes, for most of them, a trial. They must be accepted with respect, compassion, and sensitivity. Every sign of unjust discrimination in their regard should be avoided.
But yet, people do it feeling justified, like they're in the right for being unjustly critical and mean and hateful.
Yep. So I get mad, like but I feel like part of my life purpose, I'm a Catholic, and part of my life purpose is to call out the Catholics and just be like, hey, listen, stop being an idiot. Read your document. Like read what your teaching is, It's crazy. But yes, J-Ho, love thy neighbor as thyself. Love one another. Don't hate. Absolutely. Like, this is the thing. And trans people are people. Now, I don't understand. Now, here's the other thing. Where does this come from? I don't know. I really don't know. I need to probably have more conversations with someone who's trans to understand where this mentality comes from, because as a person where every cell in my body is XY, which is, like I have XY chromosomes, which is the, biological sex determination chromosome, right? I have an X and a Y, and female has an X and an X, right? And it's in every single cell of my body. So if I say that I feel like I'm a woman, how do I even know what a woman feels like if every cell in my body is male? Now, so where does that thinking come from? I don't understand, because like maybe it's societal pressure, maybe it's, like I know I have a really good friend who's a femboy and he's into being really cute. And so maybe it's the cuteness factor, or maybe it's like they feel like they're into more masculine things, like a woman who feels like she's into more masculine things, like feels like maybe she should have been a man or whatever. This whole thing, it still comes down to division, because it's dividing men and women and saying, okay, there's one type of person that's male, there's one type of woman that's female, or there's one type of woman that's male. No, wait. There's a type of human that's male, a type of human that's female, and we are at odds with each other in some ways? No. Each one of us individually has interests. We all like to dress a certain way. We all like to look a certain way. We're all into certain different things. I am not a stereotypical male because I don't like sports. I don't like watching sports on TV. I think it's dumb.
Sort of resonate with that.
Whatever. But it's crazy. Okay, so J-Ho, yes, you got a really good thing. Hormonal levels, that's important. Hormonal levels are, because hormones are kind of like, that's chemicals that drive certain things in our bodies. So like there could be hormonal imbalances, there could be all kinds of stuff, but it's trying to tell us that we should be something that biologically we're not. And that's a struggle. And we need to have compassion with those people. We need to have compassion with all people.
Yeah, everyone's going through something. Almost.
What's that?
I said almost everyone's going through something.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely right. We are. Everybody's going through stuff. Yes, Mianglios, yes. I do enjoy watching my kids play sports. Yes. But that's because it's my kids. And I love my kids. And I want to encourage them into what they're into. I don't want my kids to be little mini versions of me running around. I want to help them figure out who they are. I feel like that's one of my jobs as a dad, is not to like tell them what to be, but to help them discover what they are. Right? And so this is where like part of me has a problem, with there seems to be a push to get people started to move to transition their biological sex starting at an early age. I think that's probably wrong. I think that type of pressure is wrong. We need to have conversations. We need to have discussions, and they need to be open, and they need to be honest, and they need to be respectful. Why is it that you feel this way? And so that's the thing. Like you can talk to your dad, because I know this was the crux of the whole issue, was like you wanted to figure out you don't know how to respond. Your dad says they are dangerous and gross. one of the first things you can do is just say what makes you think that they're dangerous and
Yeah.
gross. I mean, I understand that you don't understand it. I don't necessarily understand it all the way either.
You say, yeah, what part is dangerous? Which
Mm-hmm.
part is gross?
Now, I will say there are people that have taken advantage of this probably, where there are probably guys who are straight who would like to but maybe they're pervs or something, and they're like, I identify as female, so they can use the women's restroom or the locker room or whatever and be in there. And
Mhm.
so they'll abuse this societal situation for their own gratification, right? We used to hear about it some in athletics too, where, like
Mhm.
a trans woman athlete might have an edge over, natural female athletes. And so they do that for an athletic edge. And so, like, you have people trying to game the system, and then you have lawsuits flying around, and you have all kinds of stuff. It's just, it gets to be a big mess. But all of it, just like Ryan was saying, you go back to what Ryan was talking about every single step of the way and say the problem is hate. The problem is an unwillingness to understand, an unwillingness to even try to understand.
Hmm.
They just make a judgment call, and then based on that
Mhm.
judgment call, they fill themselves with hate. And it's ridiculous. But that's the real enemy here. And I don't really have a whole lot else to say because Ryan handled it so well. Is that, like, that really is the answer. Oh my gosh, cats, none of your messages went through.
Mhm.
Oh, you sent multiple messages explaining it. I didn't see any of it.
Yeah, I actually have a number of transgender friends. And I've had conversations with them, and they were all then very respectful. I don't have to be a transgender to be their friend, right? And so, I've gotten quite a different number of responses about why they. Uh, quite a number of responses to the condition that they're experiencing, where their bodies are one type, and they're essentially trans. And so it's been interesting because I've gotten a number of different responses, some of them being social, some of them being identify. How do I say it? How one sees oneself um, in the construct of what they believe, what is what, I suppose. Um, it's kind of interesting. And I think it's a very, very sophisticated mental battle. And it's not something that can be just dismissed. So I think
Mm,
there's a need for us to have this conversation in the world so we can
mm-hmm.
understand it. But the problem is it's so politically charged,
Mm,
we can't have a conversation,
right.
you know? It's like the people who are trying to figure it out, like it's like, "Oh yeah, we've got scientists." Well, the problem is you got scientists on both sides who are attacking the subject and trying to prove one thing or another, and they're taking anything that they can find as evidence, which is never a good way to do science, right? And
Mm,
so if we actually want to get to the bottom of this, of like finding out like what's reality, what is true, because that's what we really want. What we're after is what's the truth of the scenario. Is it a mental thing or is it a biological thing? Is it a genetic thing?
mm-hmm.
Is it a what is it? And you have arguments on every side fighting each other, and they're literally grasping at straws on both sides. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you can't, because it's so politically charged, because the devil is so apparent in the detail
Mm,
everywhere. You can't have an honest conversation. You can't have an honest science. You can't have an honest anything because everything is exploding, right? because it's like you can't make a claim without going, aha, I knew it. I told you. I told you. I told you. It's like you don't have to get that fired up. You just have to be like, all right, I have this information. Let's dissect it. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out if I've taken some wrong steps or if this is true. And then you can have that talk where you're not on one side or another, where you're trying to force your way to be the one that's right. Instead, just like, let's care about people first and figure out what's right for the people. Rather than being like, I want to be right about this topic. I want to be the one that was right about all along.
Right.
And so I'm willing to do anything. Right. And so, yeah, it's really just getting on the same side as everybody. Ending the division.
Yeah, why can't we be on the same side? Why can't we have a discussion? Why can't we seek to understand each other? You know, that's really the key.
Yep.
You know.
And so again, going back to the whole point of the topic, how do you talk to your parent with this in mind? That they're not the enemy. And the point of division is not the enemy. The enemy is division itself.
Right.
We have to recognize that we aren't divided people. We're all here together on this planet, and we should be working together. We're going to have different ideas about stuff. We need to work through those ideas to find the truth. But you don't find that if you're so stuck in your way. And you know, you might find yourself coming to new truths by listening to your dad. And you have to be open for that. And your dad might find new truths listening to you, and he has to be open for that. But you're not going to be open unless you decide to be open. Your dad's not going to be your dad is not going to be open until they get to that point where they're like, I'm willing to admit defeat if it means the better of man. If it means the better of my neighbor, if it means the better of myself, if it means the better of my daughter or my son or my grandma or whatever, right? And so we have to recognize, like, this minute point of division is dumb. We don't need to pick a side and get angry. We just need to promote love and then move forward with that.
It's true, but like the thing that's hard for me to get like not be angry about is like bigotry. Like
yeah, well,
the big ones that really charge me up are like anything that's bigotry, racist, you know, anything like that, you know, where it's like, okay, this is a person just like you.
Yeah.
And you're taking some quality of theirs and you're discriminating against them because of that. Like, shut up. Like that to me.
Yeah.
Like,
but the unfortunate thing, you can't say that to their face, that sentence, because
I mean, I
then they'll
can,
be like even
but
more on their own side. Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't
Because
help.
when you attack someone, you put them on the defensive. You put them in their place where they have to fight you. If you make it not an attack, they're allowed to just switch sides.
I'll be like, hey, fight me. I'm a black belt. I will win.
That's right. That's right.
Unless you're like a third degree black belt, then you'll probably win.
Oh man. Well, I'm untrained. I've played video games though, so I know how to like.
Yep. You know how it ought to look.
Yeah, exactly. I know how it ought to look when I do it. Oh man.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for the topic. We went on about this. I'd like to do another topic. Wolfrix, I see you're here, and you do have a topic that we've kind of been sitting on for a few weeks. And I would like to get to it before we end the show. But thank you so much, Anonymous, for this topic. And Cats, you are welcome to send your explanation. I really wish it would have come through the chat. You can feel free to DM it to me.
Feel free to...
I don't know if you need to. My DM is at plebnub. Not that you've ever DM'd me before. But Ryan froze.
No, I'm here.
Okay, you're here.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, okay, there you go, J-Ho. They aren't like me. They have this minor difference, therefore they cannot be trusted. Yeah. It's silly.
Well,
it's silly. That kind of thing just makes me so mad. movies about like the movies about like the first all black basketball teams or whatever, you know?
Oh yeah.
Like I'm not into sports, but that movie charged me up so much because it was about racism and stuff, and I was just,
Yeah, yeah,
man, I
yeah,
was
yeah.
so mad. I was just like,
What's the one about the football team? It's a good movie. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't remember.
Anyways, there's a football team, and it's like they started having black people in it, and it kind of covers this coach who's black or something, and he's like, someone throws a book brick through his window at some point in the
Mm,
movie. If
mm,
anyone knows this movie, it was awesome. It was actually a really good movie.
yeah. But that kind of stuff is just ridiculous to me. Like you can't treat somebody as subhuman because they have some kind of
Uh,
difference like that.
yeah,
It's ridiculous. They're
yeah,
still a human
that's
being.
stupid.
So,
I'll remember the Giants. Yeah, thanks, J Ho. That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good movie. I like that one.
nice. All right, cool. Well, thank you, Anonymous, for that topic. And yeah, you're awesome. Um,
Questions?
I wish you well. And if you have any more questions or if you run into any more sticky situations or whatever, feel free to reach out. We gave you all the different reach out. You can reach out on our website, don'tworrywednesday.com, DWW at BSS.studio. You can reach us on Discord, all that stuff. So feel free. Yeah. Oh, remember the Titans. Yes.
Remember the Titans? Yeah, the Giants is a different one
Yep.
for sure.
It was Facing the Giants was the other football movie, but that was the
Oh,
crazy weird Christian one.
yeah, I
That
remember the Titans. That's the one. Yeah, I
the
just looked it up. That's the one.
the
Ah,
messages in
I want to
those
watch
are
that
so
movie now.
funny to me.
It's
Like
good.
some of those uber Christian movies, I'm just like they're so unrealistic.
Oh yeah.
Like I'm like,
Yeah.
you know, sometimes, you know, like if you just put your faith in God, you'll win the championship. No, sometimes God lets you lose.
Yeah, it's true. It's like,
Sometimes
and what
God,
if both teams put their faith in God? What are you expecting? Like,
right?
and
Exactly.
I mean,
Uh,
you matter to God, but does your sport matter to God that much?
right.
He's like, I want this team to win.
Right.
I think you got to put effort in, and not just leave it up to some
Right.
the whim of God necessarily,
Yeah,
who
it's
may or may not care.
Veggie Tales logic. I like Veggie Tales.
Yeah,
Veggie Tales is fun.
that
But
was great.
all right, Wolfrix, do you want us to do your topic?
Mm.
You have a topic that you sent to us like 8 days ago. Would you like us to do it? Because we can. You're here.
Go ahead. Awesome.
Go ahead. I like this topic. This is called More Yourself Online.
Mm.
And yeah. Oh, let me take that down. Okay, I will put this up on the screen so you guys can read along while I read it aloud. It's a really long topic.
Mm.
Is it healthy to be more yourself online than in person? From Wolfrix.
Thanks, Wolfrix.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good topic.
Yes, it is.
Fascinating
And I'll
topic.
get it up here on the screen too, so then it can be in the topic. But yes, is it healthy to be more yourself online than in person? And that's a really good question because in a lot of ways, I will say in a lot of ways, I've probably been more real in my heart online with some people than in person because the online relationship is a little bit different, right? And when I'm and part of it might be because when I'm standing face to face with somebody, there's a little bit more nervousness. When I'm just looking at text, maybe I'm a little more open. I'm still trying to figure some of this out. Neonsai says totally depends on your environment. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great answer because, you know,
I know. I was saying that's really important.
if you're in an environment with IRL people where you're going to be judged, you know, then maybe you don't want to expose the deepest, darkest portions of your heart. There are very few people online or in real life that I have shared the depths of my heart with. My therapist could be considered an online relationship. I still have yet to meet her in person. It's been telehealth the whole time. And, you know, like I've shared every bit of all the struggles that I went through, you know, and like, but I mean, if you're talking about friend groups and all this kind of stuff, I totally get it. I did not want to be myself like when I was in high school because I got bullied a lot. At least early high school. Starting in about 7th grade until about 10th grade, I got bullied a lot. And then in about 10th grade, something switched in my head and I started hating everybody and I was really angry for the next 2 years. And I had very, very few friends and everybody else in the school was my enemy. And they knew it because I glared at them and they stayed away from me. And I was like, you're popular. I hate you. You're a basketball player. I hate you. You're a football player. I hate you. You know, like I had a lot of hate, right?
You're a chess player. I hate you.
You're a
player. I hate you.
You're not one of my like 7 friends. I hate you. Right? Katz is back. Welcome back. Welcome back. You just missed my tirade about how much I hate people. But
not now, in the past.
In the past, exactly. Yep, I've learned that, you know, sometimes those are things that I did as a reaction to being bullied, right? I had gotten bullied enough that I was just like done with it and I was done with people and I was like you know, and I had very, very few friends. And it's kind of the same way now. I have very, very few close friends that I've shared like personal, like real personal stuff with, right? Like what's going on in my heart at that given point in time. And Nyansai, you really have got a lock on this. Oh, you got to go? Okay. Well, hey, we'll keep talking about it. You know, you can watch it later. But Nyansai, you say if you don't feel safe to be yourself around certain people, there is a reason for that. And yep, that is so true. And I would definitely I don't know, is it healthy to be more yourself online than in person? I think either way, you can find online relationships with people that are genuine, that are real, that can be full of trust. And sure, if you find people that you trust more online than you have in your sphere of IRL friends, then I can totally see that being a healthy situation where you're more yourself with these online people than you are in your IRL community. I can totally see that. And that would be totally fine. So, yeah. Anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan. Because Ryan has a lot more experience.
I have some experience in this, yeah, for sure.
In online relationships, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of a noob when it comes to that.
You've been around for a while now.
Yeah, it's true.
I wouldn't call you noob anymore, man. Yeah, you've been along for
5 years, 6 years, something like that.
Yeah, something. Yeah, that's plenty enough.
All right, I'm not a noob anymore. Yeah, I'm not a noob.
No, I don't think you are. Anyways, is it healthy to be more yourself online than in person? And here's what I'm going to say. It's healthy that you're experiencing this. Is it healthy to be that way? Not necessarily. So I have to give a little caveat here. it's important what you mean by be yourself. Because, as Nyansai said, uh, it depends on your environment, right? But if you are yourself, even when you're in an environment, like you can be yourself even when you're in an environment that doesn't allow you to speak out, for example. Um, what I mean, like, I'm going to give you some examples. Let's say you're you and you're comfortable being you in person, right? Let's just move and say that. Okay. Um, are you no longer yourself when you are playing an instrument on a stage, for example? It's like, no, you're still you. You're just you, but you can't necessarily do all the things you might normally do because you're giving a stage performance. But you're still you, right? Now let's go to another example. Are you at the kitchen table when um maybe maybe a loved one was recently diagnosed with cancer, right? And you're at a kitchen table. Things are dim, things are dark, it's like you got this feeling of oppression sort of on you and everybody at the kitchen table because you just been informed that someone has cancer, right? There's this sadness.
Mm.
Are you not yourself anymore? Or are you yourself but now dealing with a different environment? And so what I want to say is it's important to be yourself, but to be a person who can handle every environment
Mm-hmm.
without stopping to have to be themselves. Because you can be fake. You can be quiet or reserved, or you can be oppressed into that feeling, right? You can control yourself to be quiet and reserved out of who you are naturally or whatever. Or you could be put in a position where you've been bullied enough, like Joe and myself, at some point in our lives, where we've been, where we're afraid to be ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so my question is, I suppose, well, I guess my, not really a question. My statement is, if you aren't afraid, then you are free to be yourself. Generally speaking, the reason you are not yourself is because you are afraid of
Mm-hmm.
an outcome,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Yes.
anxious, you have anxiety, you're afraid of something. You're afraid of how the other person thinks of you. That makes you not yourself, right? You're afraid of how other people will treat you. That makes you not yourself, right? You're afraid of how people will respond to you if you say these words out loud. That makes you not yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if instead you hold your tongue because you recognize that now is not the right time to say this thing, it's not like, oh, I'm not myself right now. No, it's just you being yourself and having control over yourself and holding your tongue, right? Because you're recognizing that now is not the best time to say such a thing
Mm-hmm.
or to interact with these people in this kind of way. Right now is not the time for me to necessarily be happy. Right now is the time for me to be sorrowful, right? And it's okay to be sorrowful. Doesn't mean you're not yourself just because you're sad, right? And so, is it healthy to be more yourself online than in person? I think it's healthier than not being yourself online and not being yourself in person. And what I mean to say is, you're in a good position. If you are more yourself online than you are in person, you are in a great position. Why? Because it means you can make the steps forward. You have recognized that you are different online than in person. You have recognized there is something that you're holding back in person. And that's a great place to be because it means you recognize where you can improve. I don't think it's healthy to be more yourself than in person. I think it's healthy to be healthy, right? I think it's healthy to be at our best. I think it's healthy to not be oppressed or be enslaved, right? I think it's healthy to not be overcome by anxiety and fear. I think it's healthy to be yourself in real life, in person, right? Online is still real life, right? We're actually having real conversations with people. But anyways,
Mm-hmm.
it's healthy to be yourself in person. But it's important that you yourself can recognize the environment you're in to react accordingly. I can give you my own personal testimony for when I wasn't myself in person, but I was myself online. And when I had discovered, because I remember there was a distinct point in my life where I said, why do I have so many friends online? I go online, people are messaging me immediately. I go online, people talk to me. People like I'm open with people, people are my friends. It's great. In real life, I have like 3 friends and it seems like nobody likes me. And when I when I realized that, then I asked myself, why? Why do I have all of these friends online and I can just be friendly with people online and then in real life, like nobody likes me? Why? And then I realized I am not the same person online as I am in real life. And so I made it a point to basically my hero, the person I wanted to be the most like, was myself, but my online version of myself. So I started to force myself to act in person against my fears, to act like myself online, which meant being silly sometimes in public. It meant embarrassing myself. It meant talking to people when I was afraid to, just to compliment them because I liked the pants they were wearing or whatever it is, right? Because I wouldn't be afraid to say that online. It's like, hey, all these pants are awesome. But in real life, I'm so afraid to say that to somebody. Why? It's a compliment. And so I forced myself to act like myself online. And you know what happened? I can't guarantee that this will happen for you. But all of a sudden, I made a lot of friends in real life. And people started opening up to me. And I went from being completely unpopular to being one of the most, I wouldn't call myself popular in the sense of like, oh, I'm the popular kid, but I wasn't in the popular crowd, but I had probably probably one of the people with the most friends in the school. Most people that wanted to be around me just to enjoy my company because I stopped being afraid about what people thought about me and started to be more concerned about what I thought of me and to be my best and not worry so much about how others will see me, but also not disregard my environment, not be so self-absorbed that I can't realize like, okay, now is not a time to make a joke, right? So, um, I think here's the other thing that happened. I'll say this too. Um, Here's the other thing that happened. I started to get a higher self-esteem, which allowed me to be happier, which is important. And um, I think my mental health and my physical health both went up, both increased because I started to be more honest with myself in while I was with other people in real life, or in person, I should say. So, anyways, my point of saying this is you're in a good position to
Mm.
move forward because you recognize that there's a difference, and you recognize that you could make a change. And I would suggest that you do make that change. Just hear me out on one thing. This is really important. Being, uh, how do I say this? You want to be yourself. That's important. But you don't want to be egotistical, right? And the reason I'm making this point is here, there's a very fine line between depression and egotistical. It's a very fine line between depression and egotistical because they're both self-absorbed. They're both concerned with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
One spins a positive light on everything with themselves, and one spins a negative light. And you often find people who are egotistical rocking back and forth between depression and having an insanely high ego. And so if you're choosing to be yourself in public, the best thing you can do is not make it about yourself. Because you're changing how you interact with other people, but you aren't actually changing who you are. You're changing to become a better person in the sense that you are interacting with people better. But don't make life about you just so that you can be you wherever you go. What I mean by that is you can find some people out there that say like, "Well, I'm just me." You know, that's just who I am, and that's their argument to being rude to people, right? Just because you're you doesn't mean you get to be you and be rude, right? Just because you have a thought that's rude doesn't mean you should say it, right? The best version of yourself is the you that is when you're yourself, you're aware of your environment and you control yourself, right? And so when you're chasing becoming a better person, don't let the higher sense of self-esteem, because you're going to be acting out into the world your true self, right? You're going to be not so afraid. You're going to be doing stuff that's going to be increasing your self-esteem, right? Don't get so obsessed with yourself. Don't get so concerned with yourself that you actually lose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
To be yourself in the presence of people in person, just like you are online, is not an interior act so much as it is the exterior act. It's how you interact with people. It's how you think about other people. And it's how you assume other people think about you. It's it's all about the other person and your interaction with them. Don't don't let yourself get caught in the trap of being yourself and letting being myself being the guiding force in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is, you don't know everything. And you don't know all right from wrong. You don't know all truth. We don't. None of us do. And we have to be open and recognize that being egotistical is not the healthiest way to be, right? And so don't get caught up in yourself just because you're being yourself. And don't put yourself above other people so that you can be yourself. Because that's not really what being yourself is about. It's not like I'm myself and you have to deal with it. It's you and your greatest self is actually also self-aware and other aware.
Mm-hmm.
And you recognize other people are important just like you. And you treat them that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyways, I just wanted to put that caveat out there because I think that's important. Because as you make this journey from one thing to another, it's important that you know the pitfalls. Um, and so yeah, that's what I got. And I'm gonna go over to you, Joe.
Over to me.
Over to you.
I
You
love
got
what you
this,
were
man.
talking about, and yeah, I think Wolfric's. Yes, it's, you've heard it in the chat, you've heard it from Ryan.
Mhm.
There's, I mean, it's either way, online or in person. You know, depending on the group you're in, whoever you're feeling the most comfortable with, all this kind of stuff. I mean, you can. It's it doesn't really matter. It really just depends on the community. Outcats said here also. I feel as though it's a normal phenomenon. Like even I even act different between groups online. I feel it's more of a matter of time and place and comfort level between all the people you interact with, and that's so true. Like because
Yeah.
um you know sometimes we have to be guarded about what we say around certain people. And with other people, we can just let ourselves go and,
Mhm.
be like, hey, I can say whatever, right? But
Yeah.
so it
It's like
kind
you.
of,
It's like a statement. I feel free to be myself around you. Yeah. And
right,
other people, you're like, I don't. Most people, you're like, I don't feel free to be myself around them. Yeah, because
right.
you do have to be guarded.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And it happens. I can remember, you know, um, sometimes growing up, I felt a little bit out of place at certain family events. And I certainly felt out of place at school a lot, especially middle school, high school, all that kind of stuff. And so it was hard for me to just be myself in those environments. And so, um, but I really love what Ryan was getting at right at the end when he was talking about one of the best things you can do is be focused on the other person or the other people in the interaction, the other people in the group, right? Because
Mhm.
the more we're focused on ourselves and the more we're focused on being ourselves and all this kind of stuff, we can get so wrapped up into that we become self conscious and we shut down
Mhm.
anyway,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
right? So, like, one of the best things you can do is be genuinely interested in the other person. Be genuinely thinking in terms of like, how can I learn about them? And one of the things I like to say to myself in my head when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, or even when I'm meeting with someone, that I've known for a long time is, I'll try and get my head in the mindset of, I love this person. I love this person. I love this person, right? I love this person. And the more I say it to myself, the more I would like soften up and I get all like, hey, oh, I'm happy, whatever. But, like the better I get at asking questions of other people and helping them be comfortable, the more I take the focus off myself and the better things are going to go in that interaction, I find. Now, there's going to be a time and a place for me to just spout my opinion and all this kind of stuff, right? I mean, some of my friends have heard all kinds of my opinions. Some of you guys on this show have heard all kinds of my opinions. And, sometimes they're angry and sometimes they're happy and sometimes whatever. But
Mhm.
at the same time, one of the things that I can do best and that makes me feel the best inside is to allow people to be themselves, ask about them, and really be interested in them.
Mhm.
That paves the way to all these interactions anyway. Because then, here's the other thing, you don't know. If you're just meeting someone for the first time or just barely getting to know them, you don't know them well enough to know if you need to be guarded or not, especially online because you're looking at text, right?
Mhm.
It generally takes a while for me to start really being myself with a person online. Because I got to ask them questions. I got to get to know them. I got to get to kind of feel it out. I'll be messaging back and forth for a little bit. And then, like, we'll get to know each other a little bit. And then finally, maybe I'll be like, okay, maybe I can open up this little portion of who I am and then see how that goes over, right? Before somebody gets to experience like the whole shebang, which, I mean, to be quite honest, you wouldn't want to experience the whole shebang anyway. It's a mess in there. So I have the Smurf cat background. Yeah, I'm a fun guy. Tell you what. Hey, Pellet, I know you. Yeah, welcome. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of all I got. I don't know how much I could expound on it. Plus, we're over our time anyway. But yeah, this is a great question because, being more yourself, I mean, you can get wrapped up into that. You can get wrapped up into who I am. You can get all that kind of stuff. And then we become self-conscious. And then we become, like Ryan talked about, being egotistical because we're so self-focused that it becomes a problem. And we get so anxious about a possible outcome. I loved that part because I know I've been in that position before. And it has guided a lot of my interactions where I'm just like worried about what I'm going to say because I don't want I'm scared of some outcome that's going to happen. I'm scared of, some kind of result. And I don't want, so I'm afraid. And then I'm thinking about it all the time. And then like all my stuff comes out wrong. And like, it's crazy. It's crazy. But when we're that self-conscious, it messes everything up. So if we can take the focus off ourselves, put the focus on the other person, ask them questions, draw them out, help them feel comfortable, help them feel right at home with you. The more comfortable they're going to be, you're going to learn about them, and then you're going to know for sure if it's somebody that you can actually open up and be who you really are with, right? But I think the first step is being personable enough to allow people to be themselves around you. So then if you can show your true self around them. So if you get to learn them first, you're kind of in an advantage, right? Kind of cool. But man, chats, you guys are talking a lot. And all I see is must have been evil Ryan. Evil Ryan.
Yeah, it must have been evil Ryan. Yeah. I like when Yancey says here, I think that we guard ourselves to protect ourselves from getting hurt. Perhaps it is more healthy to learn how to deal with these feelings of rejection and oppression by being yourself. It depends on what you want to handle. And I think I would agree. I think everything has its time and place and lessons to learn. But if it's like people say, oh, don't get your hopes up, right? Because they've been crushed when their hopes were broken. It doesn't mean you shouldn't have hopes or expectations. It means you have to learn better how to deal with when things don't go your way, right? If things don't go your way and you break down, that's the problem, not the fact that you had high hopes, right? Your high hopes, those are great because they fueled you and charged you to take action, right? And so it's the same thing with being yourself. If you being yourself gets punished, if you if you are yourself and you get hurt because you are yourself, the problem wasn't that you were yourself. There might have been a problem with the way you acted, sure. But part of the problem is that you got hurt. Oh, sorry. Part of the problem is in the past, you've been hurt and it allowed you to stop being, and it forced you to stop being yourself, right? That's a problem. It stopped you from being the best version of yourself because you got hurt. Don't allow your pains to trump you, right? To decide for you what you should be guarded about and not guarded about, right? I think it's I think what you said, Nyansa, is very, very important. Sometimes we have to recognize that it's more healthier to deal with feelings of rejection or oppression or sorrow or whatever it is. It's more important to deal with those feelings than it is to learn to be guarded. Because if you can learn to deal with those feelings, you can deal with anything in life, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But if you learn to be guarded instead, you don't actually learn anything from being guarded. You just start performing a guarding action, right? Like, does that make sense? Yeah, I think it makes sense. I hope that is helpful. Anyways, yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for this topic. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you, Wolfrix. You're amazing.
Yeah, Wolfrix, you're awesome.
Mm-hmm. And I hope some of that made sense to you. You guys, man, and you guys in the chat, you guys are so great. I'll tell you what, we couldn't do this show without you. You guys make it a whole lot more fun. It was crazy. I feel bad because like Ryan was talking and he could see me like over here doing a whole bunch of stuff. Like he's probably like, what is Joe doing?
Yeah.
I've got my phone. I'm like messaging. My son's messaging me. He's like, hey, show this video. So here. This is my son playing Gorilla Tag. I don't have any sound. Sorry, because my mic's back here, my phone's up there.
Was this a game where you like? I think I've seen clips of it online. People are like swinging around and
oh yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's super fun. Like, and some of these guys are crazy intense at it, man. Like my son's getting so good. Like,
that's awesome.
I'll watch. He'll put it like he can cast it to the screen down here, and it's great. Like, I'll just watch him play, and just he's like zooming all over the place and swinging, like he's escaping the map and all this kind of stuff. It's amazing. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's a fun game, but it's all arms, man. You have no legs. You're a gorilla with no legs. And so you just gotta like, you run around with your arms and like swing from stuff and everything. It's cool.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. But anyway, yeah. So I was messaging, like he messaged me like right towards the end of that, and I'm like, he's like, here. And I'm like, okay.
I'm happy you take time to respond and engage.
That's I try, I try to be that way.
Kids are important.
That's just because, well, I've been ignored enough in my life that I'm like, I hate being ignored. And so I try to be responsive to people, So if you message me on Discord, I'm probably gonna respond within a semi-reasonable time.
Within a generation or two. No, that's me. That's me.
Yes.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yes.
Eventually.
Yep. You guys are awesome. But anyway, thank you so much for the topic. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us on Don't Worry Wednesday. Yes. Yeah, that first topic got a little serious for sure. And then
sorry for taking so long.
That's okay. You got important stuff to say.
Yeah, it must have been important, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't, you'd have seen me like looking at you or something while you're on full screen. I'd have been like, like,
wow. Yeah, I've never seen you do that before, so I guess I've only ever said important things, including this statement.
Yeah. Yep.
Devoured.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for hanging out with us. We will be here next week. If you have a topic, go to don'tworrywednesday.com, click the submit a topic button, fill out the little form. Make sure you say you are a human. And the captcha is DWW, all capital letters, just so you know. Or feel free to email us, dww@bss.studio. Or you can reach out to us on Discord. We'd be happy to handle your topics. And man, you guys are great. We love hanging out with you guys so much, and we look forward to it every week. So until next Wednesday, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful life, and we will see you on the flip flop. Later, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye
Love
bye.
you guys.